I started noticing her before I knew her name. Every morning, around 8:30, she'd walk past the cafe window carrying a small thermos and a grocery bag, like someone moving through a scene that didn't need her anymore. She never hurried, just drifted. Eyes somewhere between the pavement and memory. I didn't mean to look every time, but I did. It was the only consistent thing about my mornings back then. I rented the upstairs unit of her house 3 months ago. Old place, wood floors that creaked in apology. We didn't talk much at first. Just nods on the stairs, murmured, mornings. The quiet choreography of two people pretending not to notice how close they lived. Sometimes I'd hear her moving around downstairs. Running water, radio static, the faint clink of a mug against the counter. The sound carried up through the vents, small and domestic, and for reasons I didn't understand, it calmed me. That morning, I was in the cafe again, pretending to study. I wasn't studying much lately. Just scrolling through old messages I never sent, half-written drafts to people I didn't have the courage to reach out to. She walked in. First time I'd seen her there. She didn't see me at first. She ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and sat near the window. Her hair was still damp, like she'd just showered. She opened a small notebook, then closed it again without writing anything. I don't know what possessed me. I went over. "Hey," I said, halfway into a smile that didn't quite know where to land. "Didn't know you came here." She looked up, startled, then amused. "I didn't know you came here either. Though I guess it's closer for you." I shrugged. "Yeah. One of those habits that sticks even when you've got nothing to do." She smiled, small, tired, but it lingered. "I know the kind." We talked, in that strange, light way people do when they're both careful not to sound lonely. She asked if the heat upstairs was working, if I'd found the fuse box yet. I said I had. We kept going, drifting between small talk and something else neither of us named. She remembered how I took my coffee. "You're the oat milk one, right?" she asked, halfway to standing when the barista called her name. I laughed. "You notice things." Her eyes flicked away, just for a second. "I try not to." She brought back my refill without asking. I watched the way she folded the napkin before setting it down, twice, neatly like a habit. Her fingers lingered near the rim of my cup before she pulled them back, as if realizing too late what it looked like. I wanted to say something, to make the silence less heavy, but all that came out was, "Thanks, don't mention it." We sat there longer than we should have. I don't think either of us planned it that way. Outside, the light started to fade. Late autumn, the kind that turns everything gold before it dies out. When she finally stood to leave, she hesitated. "You know," she said quietly, "I shouldn't enjoy this." I looked at her. At the curve of her hand clutching the thermos. The small, unguarded smile she tried to hide. "But you do." She didn't answer. Just nodded once, almost imperceptibly, and walked out. By the time I finished my coffee, there was a message from her. Just 4 words. She brought the book up to my door that evening, the one I apparently left. When I opened it, she stood there holding it like it was proof of something. "You really didn't forget it?" she asked. "No," I said, watching her eyes flick down to the cover. "But I guess you wanted a reason to check." A pause. Then the smallest smirk. "Maybe I did." She stepped inside before either of us decided she should. She looked around my place. The half-assembled desk, the pile of laundry I kept promising to do, the one chair by the window. "You live light," she said. "I move a lot." She nodded, running her hand along the edge of the counter. "That sounds lonely." "I guess it is." We both stood there, unsure what to do with the air between us. Then she noticed the kettle. "Do you have tea?" I said, grateful for something to do. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. 2 mugs, 1 lamp, rain tapping against the window. She kept her legs crossed neatly, like she didn't plan to stay long. "You were married," I said quietly, not as a question. She nodded. 17 years. Feels longer when I say it out loud. What happened? People stop talking. Then they stop listening. After that, it's just noise. Her tone wasn't bitter. Just resolved. Like someone who'd already sorted through the grief and labeled it. I didn't say anything for a while. The rain filled the silence for us. I watched a drop slide down the glass, and thought about how easy it is for things to leave a mark without meaning to. She looked over. You remind me of my son's friend. Same quiet way of thinking before you speak. I laughed softly. That sounds like a warning. Maybe it is, she said. But she was smiling. She reached for her mug, fingers brushing mine by accident, or not. I didn't move. Neither did she. It wasn't movie-like, it was just warm and unbearably human. Later, when she stood to leave, she lingered by the door, coat half buttoned. You shouldn't be kind to me, she said. Why not? Because I'll start expecting it. I wanted to tell her that kindness wasn't something I rationed out, that it just happened. But I didn't. I just looked at her, trying not to memorize the shape of her mouth when she said things she didn't mean. I'll see you around, she said finally.
Yeah.
She reached out, adjusted the collar of my sweater. Just a small domestic gesture, one that meant nothing and everything. Her fingers trembled, only slightly. When she left, I sat back down, her half-empty mug still steaming on the table. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. She stopped coming by for a week. No knock on the door. No faint sound of her humming through the vent. Even the radio she usually played in the mornings was gone. Like the whole house had gone still on purpose. I told myself not to notice. Not to care. But I found excuses to linger downstairs. The mail, the recycling, checking if the light in her kitchen was on. It wasn't. Then, one evening, it was. She was in the garden, trimming something that didn't need trimming. Headphones in, old sweater, hair pinned messily. She didn't see me until I called out, "Hey." She paused, removed one earbud. You scared me. Sorry. I thought you'd moved out. She smiled faintly. You'd like that, wouldn't you? I didn't answer. The air between us was tight. Not angry, just full. You've been quiet, I said finally. I've been busy, she replied. Then, after a beat, trying to remember what kind of person I used to be before all this. All this? She gestured vaguely. The garden, the house, me. This, between life. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell her she wasn't in between anything. That she was exactly where I looked forward to seeing her, but the words caught somewhere in my throat. She invited me in without saying it. Just left the back door open as she went inside. I followed. Her kitchen smelled like lemon soap and something faintly burnt. On the counter sat 2 cups, one already filled. I made tea, she said, not meeting my eyes. Do you always make 2? Sometimes, she said. Out of habit. I leaned against the counter. She leaned too, a few inches away, facing the sink. The silence felt different this time, heavier, aware of itself. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said quietly. Like what? Like you mean it. Her hands were wet from rinsing the cup. A drop slid down her wrist. She wiped it with her sleeve, but her hand was shaking. I took the towel from the hook, handed it to her. She hesitated before taking it. Thanks, she murmured. She dried her hands slowly, deliberately, like stalling time. The front door opened suddenly. The sound sharp and ordinary, but it jolted us apart. A man's voice, distant, rough. You home? She froze. I saw it, her breath catch, eyes dart toward the hall. Just a neighbor, she called out too brightly. Hay helped with the garden hose. I nodded, already stepping back. The tea cooled untouched. As I passed her, she whispered, Don't. Her eyes said the rest. When I reached the stairs, I could still hear them, his voice low, hers quieter. Nothing angry, but full of history I didn't belong to. Upstairs, I stood by the window, looking down at her kitchen light. For a second she looked up. Just once, like she knew I was there, and then she turned it off. It was early evening when she knocked. First time since that night. She stood there holding a small container. I made too much pasta, she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. Thanks, I said. You want to eat here or? She shook her head. No. Just take it. Then, after a pause, actually, maybe I'll sit for a bit. We ended up on the porch steps. The air was damp, half-ramp memory. She tucked her knees under her chin, like someone trying to take up less space. I handed her a fork. She didn't take it right away. I'm sorry about the other night, she said quietly. You don't have to be. I do. He's not. She stopped. He just came to pick up some old boxes. I should have told you. You don't owe me that, I said. She looked at me then, really looked. That's the problem, isn't it? I feel like I do. The wind moved through the trees. Something about it made everything feel too close. We ate quietly. Two people pretending food could distract them from what was sitting between them. After a while, she said, "You ever wish people didn't notice things?" "Like what?" "Like when you start smiling at the wrong moments. Or waiting for someone's door to open." I didn't answer. Just watched the steam rise from the container. She laughed softly, no humor in it. "I'm old enough to know better. That's the worst part." "You're not." "Don't," she said. Her tone wasn't sharp, just tired. "You don't have to save me from the truth." I let out a breath. "You think I'm doing that?" "A little." She tilted her head, studying me. "You make me feel seen. But I can't tell if it's kindness or curiosity." Her words hit something inside me that had been waiting to break. "Maybe both," I said. "Does it matter?" "Yes," she whispered. "It has to." We sat there, the space between us thinner than breath. The streetlights came on, spilling pale yellow over her face. She looked softer in it, undone. I wanted to tell her that I thought about her more than I should, that I replayed every glance. But the words stuck, heavy and half-formed. Instead, I said, "You make it hard to stay quiet." She smiled, slow, fragile. Then her hand brushed against mine, just once. I didn't move. A car passed, headlights sweeping across us like a spotlight no one asked for. We both blinked, and the moment folded itself shut. She stood first. "I should go," she said. "Will you?" She hesitated, one foot on the step below. The porch light hummed faintly between us. "I don't know," she said, and I couldn't tell if it was an answer or a question. She disappeared again. No note, no knock, no sound from below. At first I told myself it was nothing. People get busy. People pull back. But her absence didn't feel like distance. It felt like she'd closed a door on something before either of us agreed it was over. The porch stayed empty. The garden overgrew. Even her curtains stayed drawn, the lace edges turned yellow from the afternoon sun. By the third day I stopped going to the cafe. I finally saw her one morning at the mailbox. She looked startled. Not like she'd seen me, but like she'd been caught thinking about something she didn't want to explain. "Morning," I said carefully. She nodded. "You've been quiet, so have you?" A small silence. Then she looked away. "My son's visiting." I didn't think it'd be right. Her voice cracked on the last word. Just barely, but I heard it. "I get it," I said. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "No, you don't. He's around your age." That landed somewhere I didn't expect, sharp, unkind to both of us. I laughed softly, mostly to fill the air. "Wes, that explains the quiet." She flinched. "Don't make this harder." "I'm not." "Then stop looking at me like that." Her hand trembled as she fumbled with the mail. A letter fell. I bent to pick it up, but she was already retreating, mumbling, "I've gotta go." The letter stayed on the ground long after she went inside. That night, her house glowed again, warm light behind the curtains, shadows moving. I imagined laughter, voices, a world I wasn't invited into. I sat by my window, the half-eaten pasta still in the fridge, her mug still on my counter. My phone buzzed once, a message from a friend I hadn't replied to in weeks. I typed one out to her instead. Did I do something wrong? I didn't send it. Deleted. Rewrote, deleted again. 2 days later, I found her on the steps, arms wrapped around her knees, hair loose, like she hadn't slept. "Your son?" I asked quietly. "Gone," she said. "For now." She looked exhausted, but there was something softer too. A kind of fragile peace. "I thought maybe you'd come by," I said. "I almost did." She looked up. "But every time I think about it, I remember how easy it is to forget what I promised myself." "And what's that?" "To stop wanting things that don't belong to me." We sat there, side by side, the sound of crickets rising around us. She leaned her head back, eyes closed, face tilted toward the faint light of the porch. I wanted to reach for her hand, but I didn't. When I went back upstairs later, my phone lit up again. Her name, a half-written message in the preview. "Sometimes I wish," that was it. Nothing more. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It rained again, the kind that doesn't fall so much as linger. Drifting sideways under streetlights. I found her in the kitchen when I came downstairs to check the breaker. She hadn't heard me come in. She was standing by the sink, staring at the window, mug in hand, the kettle still whistling. When she finally turned, she almost smiled. "Power's been flickering again," she said. "Yeah, I was just. I know." She gestured toward the light above us. "You always come down when it goes out." I didn't answer. She poured tea into a second cup, wordlessly setting it in front of me like she used to. For a while we just stood there, the sound of rain thickening the silence. "You didn't finish your message," I said finally. She froze. "You read it. It popped up on my screen before you deleted it." Her lips parted, then closed again. "Then you know what I was going to say." "I don't," I said. "I wish I did." She leaned against the counter, mug trembling slightly. "Sometimes I wish I'd met you when I was braver. When wanting something didn't feel like betrayal." "It's not betrayal," I said, "maybe not for you." I took a slow breath, watching steam rise between us. "You think this is just about age?" She looked up, eyes sharp now, tired of pretending. "It's not just age. It's timing, it's who we've both been before this. I spent years holding everything together, for a man, for a son, for a version of myself that no longer exists. And then you showed up, quiet, kind, too patient. And suddenly I'm remembering what it feels like to be seen. It's terrifying." Her voice cracked, barely. I stepped closer. Not enough to close the space. Just enough that she didn't have to raise her voice. "You think I'm not scared too?" I said. "Half the time I don't even know what I'm doing here. But I keep showing up because..." "Because what?" "Because being near you feels honest. Like I don't have to pretend I'm fine all the time." The words came out small, almost embarrassed. She exhaled, setting the mug down too hard. "You shouldn't say things like that. Then stop making them true." A beat of silence. Then another. The house hummed around us, faintly alive again as the power steadied. Her hand moved, almost instinctively, to my sleeve. A soft, uncertain touch. "I can't promise anything," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to." The words hung there, fragile and final. She nodded once, eyes glossy but calm. "Then maybe we can just be. For now." I reached for the kettle, refilled her mug, and set it back in front of her. Neither of us spoke again. When she finally looked up, she said it so quietly I almost missed it. "Okay." And that was enough. Winter came quietly that year, the kind of cold that makes the air sound softer. She still lived downstairs. I still lived upstairs. Nothing had changed in any official way, but the house felt steadier. Like it had decided to stop holding its breath. Sometimes we had breakfast together. Sometimes we didn't. She'd knock twice when the kettle was ready, and I'd come down barefoot, rubbing sleep out of my eyes. She still drank her coffee black. I still asked if she wanted oat milk just to make her roll her eyes. It wasn't romantic, it wasn't not romantic, it just was. Once, her son came by again. This time she introduced me properly. "This is Eli," she said. "He rents the upstairs." He shook my hand, polite, suspicious in the way sons are supposed to be. We shared dinner, talked about nothing much. She laughed more that night than I'd ever heard her laugh before. After he left, she stood by the sink washing dishes. I dried. Our hands brushed. Once, twice. Not by accident anymore. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For staying." I shrugged, looking out the window where snow had started to fall. I didn't know I was allowed to leave. That made her smile, small, almost hidden. Months passed like that, quietly, warmly. We walked to the cafe some mornings. The barista learned our rhythm. 1 black coffee, 1 oat milk, no small talk. We sat by the same window where I used to watch her walk by alone. Now, when she looked out, she reached for my hand without thinking. Just a touch. Light, absent-minded, but it was enough. She still wrote in that little notebook she never filled. I asked once what she wrote about. "Things I don't want to forget," she said. "Like what?" She closed it. "Like how you always pause before you speak, or how the light hits the kitchen at 84:07 a.m., or that time I said I shouldn't enjoy this, and you said I did." I laughed softly. "You still do, don't you?" She pretended to think. "Maybe." One night, months later, we sat on the porch steps again. The same place where she once said she didn't know if she'd leave. The air smelled like rain. Somewhere in the distance a clock struck the half-hour. "Do you ever think about that first day?" I asked. "The cafe?" "Yeah." She nodded. You looked nervous. I was. She smiled at that. So was I. We sat in silence for a long time. The kind that isn't awkward. The kind that feels like understanding. Before we went in, she leaned her head against my shoulder. It's strange, she said softly. I don't feel paused anymore, me neither. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? The kind that don't shout, but stay.